morning. Let's do this, shall we? Base is dropped on a new round of soccer down here, and I apologize for being 60 seconds late because let me pull back the fourth wall here a little bit. The way things are here in the office, and I know that this will surprise you, is that the system is routed a certain way. And for me to hear something where I'm not having to wear my headphones 24/7, 365, you route things and it comes through the monitor and all these kinds of things. So, of course, I had that screwed up this morning. And so it's like, all right, how am I going to you hit this, you hit this, you hit this, you hit this, you hit this. And then finally it's there. And then, of course, the slate wasn't up because I was trying to figure out everything else. And that's why you saw me first before the open. So there you go. I think we have everything squared away. Bases dropped for Wall Pass Wednesday. It's whatever's on your mind and whatever's on our mind as well. We got stuff to talk about. We have legal stuff in England. You see, I can't do that the way that Jason does. But we have legal stuff in England after the most recent round of matches and press conferences. We have things returning that we kind of figured they would, just didn't have an idea as to the when. And whatever is on your mind this morning. Once again, John here, Jarrett there. Jarrett, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. I'm taking all this in, taking notes.
Yes.
All that stuff.
Yeah. And so once again, it's a Wall Pass Wednesday. So it's whatever's on your mind and whatever is just happens to pop it into our brain. And the opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. And let me see if I can find it without delaying the show 45 minutes. There we go. There's the QR code once again. For those of you watching live on Twitch, that's your QR code to get into the world of Kickoff Coffee and purchase what they have going on. And thanks to everyone who has been doing so far. Kickoffcoffeeco.com. You can follow them at Kickoff Coffee Co, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And you can do everything you want when it comes to getting your morning started the Kickoff Coffee way. Use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off of your purchase, and then they in turn take 10%, and then they reinvest it into the youth game. Very, very cool stuff that we're doing for our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Okay, so Jarrett, I wanted I saw this note yesterday and then again this morning. And just when you thought they were out, they're pulling us back in. Our friends at A22 in overseas, A22 Sports Management, the commercial sports development company, has appointed a German television executive, Bernd Reichart, as their new chief executive. He comes as a couple of teams have a thought in mind. And so this, apparently by our friends at A22, is the first re-step in taking out the paddles and shocking the Super League back into life. That's what I thought
The writers are getting lazy is what I'm hearing.
Yes. Right. Yeah.
We don't have a plot for season 4. Let's just rehash the plot from season 2 that didn't get off the ground because we did the will they, won't they.
Yes.
So the writers are getting lazy.
Yes, writers are getting lazy.
It's about this point where you just kill the show off. Like, just end the show.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can either end it or the network's going to cancel it.
Uh-huh.
I know we're going in this direction, and we're going in this direction in multiple sports. College football is its own conversation about Super League-related things.
Yes.
I know we're going in this direction, but it doesn't make it any less annoying. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. You know, because when you have an idea and you know that it's an eventuality, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Juve continue to still back plans for a Super League. You're once again a part of this discussion where, remember, this was last April. They had this idea, 12 teams, AC Milan, Arsenal, Atleti, Barca, Chelsea, Inter Milan, Juve, Liverpool, Man City, Man United, Real Madrid, and Spurs, who to me at the time just kind of seemed like the little brother that was hanging around. And it's just like, yeah, come on.
Spurs was the little brother hanging around because they want the cash that comes with Super League play.
Yes.
Like, that's it.
Yeah. And so Rijkaard is, according to our friends at Sky, his first remit is to initiate talks with the stakeholders across Europe while he's where discussions can continue without input from the Big Six in England. He's hopeful they will engage. He also believes that the Premier League club's club-run model is a good example for the Super League, now expanded to 20 teams. Asked if the 24-25 season was the earliest the failed project could start up again, Rijkaard told the PA news agency, quote, "That might be the first reasonable and realistic call, but there are so many variables that I can't actually foresee. That is probably the first realistic call. Important reassessment. And the concept is spreading out about openness and taking the permanent membership off the table. I can say the three clubs, the ones that are still active in this discussion, have credibly reassessed and taken some learnings from the first approach. I believe there's no reason not to engage, for a double negative, no reason not to engage in an open dialogue, but we shall see. I'm aware of what the English clubs stated a year and a half ago, but hope the whole football community is appreciating the approach to continue to care and try to come up with solutions. Initially, the dialogue can work without them, meaning the English clubs. I will talk to clubs in other countries, but this is not an exclusive initiative at all. It is an inclusive initiative. Of course, the situation of the English clubs in the Premier League is a strong example of how attractive a club-run competition could actually look like and what difference it makes if you have the best playing each other week after week in a way. I would love to have their point of view as well. Let's see. Let's kick it off today." So they've brought in Bernd Rijkaard, the Super League, to try to restart things and break out the paddles to try to reinvigorate the patient on the table. And I mean, it's like, I'm trying to think of, you mentioned season 4 not having any ideas and bringing back a character from just bringing back a plot line from season 2. I'm trying to think of the reintroduction of a character in a TV show that was far too late for the show, and it seemed like a good idea on paper, but it was a really bad idea because it didn't help you, give you the boost, and you invested all this money in bringing in this high-priced talent, this high-priced actor into the
James
show.
Spader into The Office.
Okay, there we go.
Robert California.
There you go.
The character in and of itself was not bad, but at that point, the timing and everything else, it didn't really work. And then they went through like a slew of guest characters. I mean, it's like, oh man, just be a Parks and Rec, where you tell your story and you get out, or what theoretically a Ted Lasso is about to be, which is tell your story and get out.
Yeah.
Ted Lasso starts talking about season 4, I get nervous because if you wrote a 3-season show and you had a beginning, middle, and an end, then that's what you should do.
Yes.
Now, if you want to spin it off afterward, that's fine. But if you have a structure, then run with it. Now, to take this back to soccer, people in clubs are greedy.
Yes.
This whole inclusive thing, it's for the dogs.
It's inclusive.
What it is.
It's inclusive for the popular.
It's inclusive for the people who are going to be included in it, which is a small fraction. And we already like to pretend that Champions League is not an exclusive environment because, let's be honest, it's 8 teams that compete for Champions League titles every year. Yeah. Realistically. Because of the separation in spending and really separation in spending, and the quality gulf that exists.
Yeah.
I guess if you want to try and get it off the ground and say, hey, we're going to expand the Super League out to more teams, that's got a better chance of getting it off the ground, because people are not nearly as upset about this sort of thing when they're the ones that get the benefit from it financially, potentially.
Right. Yes.
But we'll see how structure lays out. Can you not ham fist this thing as horribly as you did the first time?
Ooh,
that would be my great question in all of this.
Yeah. Can you screw this up a second time?
can you screw it up a second time? Because, yeah, it kind of feels like an inevitability.
Yes.
But sometimes an inevitability is at its best when you just let it happen and quit trying to, like, put a round peg into a square hole, or vice versa, however you want to do your geometry.
Yes.
Just, man, just let it be.
Yes.
Just let sleeping dogs lie for now, and don't talk about it. Like, some of the best implementations we get out of things, especially when you're starting something new, like when you already have something established, and you bring in something like the Europa Conference League, which is just it is peak UEFA after dark.
Yes.
Because of the teams you have in it, they can talk about the run up, because UEFA Champions League is already a pre-existing entity. They already have a structure and a foundation upon which to stand. You keep talking Super League and you keep talking a big game and nothing comes out of it. You are only making yourself look like a fool. Just shut up and work behind the scenes.
We're coming. We're coming. I mean it. I mean it this time. Yeah. We're really coming.
It's just shut up and work behind the scenes. Just build it however you need behind the scenes, if that's your ultimate goal, and I think that's where it's going to end up in some respect, one way or another.
Yeah.
But they've already talked about changing Champions League around for the upcoming season to try and make it more inclusive, with monolithic quotation marks around the word inclusive, built by the dwarves in Moria after digging up all the mithril and waking up the Balrog.
Yes.
It's easy to talk that talk. Just stop.
Yes.
I know y'all want the press, and I know a lot of this is feeding the egos of people who have way too much ego to begin with.
Absolutely.
Just stop.
Yes. Jason Nix comes in. He says Cousin Oliver was his thought. And he also brings in the notion of any kid being brought in late in a show's run. So then to me, that means both Family Ties with Brian Bonsall and Different Strokes with Danny Cooksey. Those two instances to me definitely scream round two of the Super League. That's what you're staring at here. You're staring at latter seasons Family Ties, latter seasons Different Strokes, when you've brought in the young precocious child. That's what you're staring at here with this group. See what happens, Nick? People of a certain demographic, when you go down a rabbit hole, that's what you end up with. But that is part and parcel to our opening kickoff. And because it's a Wall Pass Wednesday, this whole show might be an opening kickoff. But that's the first thought that popped into our heads this morning on opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee. KickoffCoffeeCO.com. There's your QR code for those of you watching on Twitch. Once again, if you go and grab Kickoff Coffee, which a lot of folks do, and thank you for doing so, use the code Soccer Down Here 15. You get 15% off of your purchase, and then they in turn take 10% and then reinvest it in the youth game and youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff that our friends at Kickoff Coffee are doing. KickoffCoffeeCO.com. Once again, Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram. And so that's our opening kickoff this morning. And other things that Jarrett, since you're with us for the first hour, anticipating Dylan Butler for his weekly appearance, and we'll talk to Dylan about the playoffs, coming in the playoffs going when he shows up at the top of the hour. We've had some more awards that have been handed out in Major League Soccer this year. And disappointingly, Jesus Ferreira, disappointingly, if you're an Atlanta United fan, Jesus Ferreira gets your Young Player of the Year award, and 18 goals, 6 assists, 33 matches, tying the club's single-season goals record, jointly held by Kenny Cooper, Jason Kreis. None came from the penalty spot. And so Jesus Ferreira is your Young Player of the Year. Once again, 22 and under, players born on or before January 1st, 2000. Brenner was eligible by 15 days because I think it was, wait a second, 22. I think he was like January 15th or something like that. So Young Player of the Year, edging out Thiago Almada and Brenner. So Jesus Ferreira got from the clubs, from the players themselves. All right, so here's your breakdown of your vote. Thiago Almada won the players' vote. Thiago Almada won the club's vote. Jesus Ferreira finished second in both. Brenner finished third in both. The media vote for Ferreira, Almada, and Brenner. Thiago Almada finished third at 7.3%. Brenner, 8.1%. Jesus Ferreira, 58.5%. So that obviously still leaves, a good quarter in play. But Jesus Ferreira gets, of the three, 58.5% of the vote. And so Thiago Almada recognized by the players and the clubs, but then by the time it was done, he was 15% behind Jesus Ferreira when all the polls reported Jarrett. So Thiago Almada finishes second, and Jesus Ferreira got 58% of the media vote to win Young Player of the Year. Ricardo Pepi from FC Dallas was there in 2021. Diego Rossi from LAFC was 2020, and before then it was referred to as Rookie of the Year. So Jesus Ferreira is your winner in 2022, getting a boatload of the media vote, but Thiago Almada winning players and clubs. So there you go.
Yeah, and I think I was interested to see the percentages because I saw that reported yesterday that it was the way it was split, that media was the overriding vote in terms of just sheer quantity. And I think some of that has to do with the fact that Ferreira, and none of this is to say that Ferreira doesn't deserve it. He had an amazing season. But he's a young American striker who put up goals in bunches in a team that is now in the second round of the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And he followed in the shoes of Ricardo Pepi, and there's already a push of like, hey, we're taking Ferreira to the World Cup, right?
Yeah.
Because he's in form. He's putting the ball in the back of the net. God knows you can't take Brandon Vasquez, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm still sideways about that one with old 3G. Well, look, if you want to tell me that we don't want to take Brandon Vasquez and start him because he's not integrated with the group and we're worried about chemistry, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. But to not take him at all,
yeah,
is asinine and really stupid to me. If you don't want to start him because you're worried about chemistry, okay. I guess it takes a year to develop chemistry, or 4 years in this case, because it's already been like, I think he mentioned in his interview, getting ready for the next World Cup. But you take a guy like that who is a physical specimen and who is really in form with his one-time finishing. You take a guy like that anyway to put him on the bench if you don't want to start him, because if you're late in the game and you need a goal, guess who you're looking toward?
Yes.
It's just irresponsible to me from Berhalter, and look, there's an entire MLS versus world players narrative that exists, and some really nasty arguments that go on online about it that you're going to be happier if you don't get involved in. For MLS versus Europe, where players are playing in quality, but you still take a guy like that, even if you put him on the bench, just to have a guy to come in late in games.
Mm-hmm. We've got some folks that are completely and totally fired up about this particular element of the conversation. Coco says 3GB can't allow an informed striker to come to the World Cup. That would make too much sense. Two places form doesn't matter to him: goalkeeper and striker.
Yeah, and as far as the media bias y'all are talking about goes, I mean,
I
don't even know so much if it's an anti-South American bias as it's a pro-American bias. It's, how long have we been looking for the great American striker? Never mind the fact the guy who holds the MLS record in goals is an American.
Yeah.
You're always looking for that great next American striker, and the split being what it was what was kind of eye-raising to me. Like I said, I don't think Ferreira didn't deserve it. It's the way this vote split so violently that was wild.
Well, and you actually had a media member admit out loud something that we have long discussed, that that you admit publicly that you have a bias against Atlanta United, not just the way that it was laid out, but you actually had someone from the media out loud say that,
No. Elaborate on that. It's not someone from the media. It's someone from the mothership at MLS.com.
Right.
That's different. It's different to say from the media, because that is a wide-ranging scope of individual coverage versus the collective of people who work for the actual organization out of New York in the mothership.
Yeah. And I'm trying to find the quote because I was burying the name of the individual until it was all laid out. And it's Andrew Wiebe. And I'm still trying to find it. But Andrew Wiebe admits.
And I think some of it is tongue in cheek with him. When he says that,
but you can't tell the difference.
Yes, I know. It's Poe's law. On the internet, it's almost impossible to tell the difference between someone being sincere and someone joking.
Mm-hmm.
The chat's just breaking into like burning things down when Zach Steffen starts in the World Cup, which is fascinating because Zach Steffen still can't play with his feet very well. But you know what? I guess YOLO, right? Right, Greg?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Greg's done some really good things as manager. He has put Mexico in hell a couple of times in a very humorous fashion at the expense of Tata Martino, which has loosed many a really unsure Larry David GIF. How do we feel about this?
Yes.
But man, the man believes, and I get it. Like Zach Steffen was his goalkeeper in Columbus. He probably has a very good thumb on the pulse of what Zach Steffen is and how he thinks and how he plays and how he moves and how he operates.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't always mean it's the right choice, my man. We're gonna have to see how that one shakes out because if Zach Steffen, good of a shot stopper as he can be, ends up like making a Zach Steffen, which is a verb at this point, in a World Cup game, good God.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to take him. You're free to take Matt Turner. Just take Sean Johnson, too. Why not?
Yes.
Just take him, too.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a similar creature in that it's a player who is very good at shot stopping and is capable of some of the weirdest, awful stinker goals you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Let's see. You've hit on something this morning. Nick's he's going to start Steffen, and then we have every right to riot, burn it all down. Coco combined an anti-Atlanta bias with a pro-American bias. So Coco is going choice D, all the above. Let's see. Berhalter's already shown at every opportunity possible that if Steffen is healthy, then he will start hell or high water. Form be damned. The MLS.com hive mind is insane. It's only a World Cup. It doesn't matter that much. Coco went all caps. And then burned. Berhalter is making some selection mistakes late in the cycle that will cost him his job after the World Cup. He's been slow all cycle to recognize talent or lack thereof, but right now he's just flat out wrong concerning the strikers and the center backs. So there you go.
I mean, do we want to talk about the fact that the guy you're going to miss most is probably is probably going to be Miles?
Yeah.
Like, that's the player, not even just the defender. The player you are going to miss most is probably Miles because of what he gives you on that back line. And you don't have anyone who can replicate that because he very well might be the best man-to-man center back on this continent. But he's not available, so what you gonna do?
Yeah, exactly. So so Coco's then goes, but would the USSF, would the Soccer Federation higher ups be willing to make a manager change heading into hosting a World Cup cycle? I think so.
I think if this one just completely goes to hell in a handbasket, yeah.
Well, and I also think that we've learned the lesson from Jurgen Klinsmann about staying at the dance too long. And it's
I hope so.
And I would hope that lesson has been learned. But, I mean, legitimately, I think that if you hold on to someone too long, you sadly don't recognize it until it's too late, if that makes any sense.
It does.
And the idea is that, and I think that you definitely are You're definitely getting rid of Berhalter if you don't get out of group.
If you don't, if you have a desire, and I hope I'm very wrong. I've been eating a lot of crow in the last week concerning a certain Arthur Smith, head coach of the Atlanta Falcons.
Right.
I hope I am just as wrong about what Gregg Berhalter does in the World Cup, and I hope he does very well. If he does not, and if that team does horribly, people will call for him to be gone. And if and when he is not, the nepotism claims are going to be oh so loud. And man, it's not the same as like the Kirk Ferentz, Brian Ferentz thing, but there's just enough similarities that I have laughed my ass off a couple times thinking about it.
Yeah. And I mean, with Brian Ferentz and Kirk Ferentz, the buyout for Kirk Ferentz is one thing, and the fact that you have the son there, no doubt. Coco's asking, defining going to hell in a cell.
No, we're not leaving anybody. No, we are not leaving anybody on the ground in Qatar. I'm not doing something that's going to be potentially viewed as a crime.
Yeah.
We will, you know what? We'll hit a connecting flight to somewhere that is, I don't know. We'll hit a connecting flight somewhere. We'll leave him there. Kiffin him there. Kiffin him somewhere other than, Qatar. Kiffin him someplace that's not red on the travel scale.
So
Kiffin him in Europe. Cool. Pick the most inconvenient city you can find in Europe that is not like a danger to his existence and his mortality, and you can Kiffin him there. Please don't Kiffin anybody in Qatar. No one deserves that.
No. So you're thinking like some remote airstrip in Portugal or something like that, where you're having to refuel.
No, because Portugal's nice. We can drop him on Tenerife. He'll be fine.
Liechtenstein.
You're going to Glasgow. No, Inverness.
See, but Bert, the idea to Kiffin him is that you don't want to do it. You don't want to give him a nice airport hotel. So we're trying to think of.
I was thinking Germany, but like Frankfurt's airport is nice in general. I like Frankfurt as I sprinted through the airport to catch a connecting flight once.
Right.
What I saw of it as it was blurring past me was lovely. Copenhagen's nice. You can drop him there. You can go to Tivoli and ride a couple roller coasters and cool off. And it'll be cold, so he'll be on the roller coasters and cold, so he'll have to like just reckon with that. Just drop him there. That's fine by me.
Well, I think we've got a good contender from David, Sofia, Bulgaria.
Man, I'm thinking Western Europe because I want him to be safe but inconvenienced.
Okay.
If we're talking about Kiffining him, I want to Kiffin him somewhere where he is safe from harm, but he is highly inconvenienced.
Okay. So, all right. So that's your QOD right now. I'm calling it right now. 9:30. We're a half hour in the show. The question of the day is:
South Africa would be a major inconvenience. He might also get robbed, depending on where you drop him.
Where if Gregg Berhalter does not get out of group stage, where is he appropriately Kiffined? That's the
For
question.
those of you who don't know what Kiffining is, when Lane Kiffin, who is the head coach of Ole Miss, who is currently in the driver's seat to win the SEC West, by the way, when Lane Kiffin was the head coach at USC, after he lost, I forget, was it like Washington or Colorado or somebody he lost who he had no business losing to? He lost a game, and they fired him on the tarmac after the game in front of the airplane. I'm pretty sure they just left him there.
Yeah. Pat Hayden was
Pat Hayden was in charge at USC. Oh my God, USC is a multi-generational clown show. It is an act of God that Pete Carroll got to multiple titles with that team because the entire organization is a clown show.
62-41 loss to Arizona State, September 28th, 2013. Here's how Kiffin described it. On the bus ride, we took a right turn. On the day of my firing, I jogged. It was about 100 degrees. I remember that turn. Wow, I'm back in the same place because remember, last time that he went back to Phoenix for a national championship back in 2016, and he was there as a coach. And so he was fired after the loss to Arizona State in the early morning hours after touching down at a private airport near LAX. Episode famously reported as Hayden axing Kiffin right there on the tarmac near the team plane. Kiffin says I was actually a good 20 yards off the tarmac. So he wasn't fired on the tarmac. It was 20 yards off the tarmac.
That's semantics to the actual question.
I had no idea at all. It totally caught me off guard. I got off the plane, put my bag on the bus. I was going to sleep at the facility. Someone came and said, Pat wants to see you. I left my briefcase on the bus. The next time he saw that briefcase, a staffer delivered it to his house. He was driven home that night by a team security person. So that's what you're looking at with Lane Kiffin. That's the definition in your hashtag of Kiffining. Let's see. Matt Leinart got to the BCS title game in spite of USC. Michael Head, I've been to Johannesburg. It's a pretty inconvenient place to get back to the U.S. Coco says if 3G gets dropped in China, would they allow him to fly back to the U.S.? And that's the thing. That's why you don't want to.
That's why we're thinking.
You don't want to inconvenience the entire team. You just want to inconvenience the individual. So you want the plane to land with everyone on it. You want the side door to the airplane to open up, whether or not there's the ramp that's there for everyone to walk down. That's irrelevant and immaterial. But you want the plane to land and be able to take off. If you were to go certain places, the plane could land and then the plane would not be allowed to take off unless you violated international rules. And then that would not make you fans of the folks in the tower or in the particular country that you landed in. So that's what we're looking for here for the QOD. Where can Team US, where can the U.S. men's national team land on their way back home, inconvenience one individual, but still then have the presence to be able to run down a runway, take off, and leave the guy there? That's what we're looking for. Yes, travel restrictions are a bear, and that's what we're trying to get around, Coco. If something happens in the group stage, which none of us wish, if that does happen, where does the plane land without travel restrictions, but it's still an inconvenience for the one individual who's booted off the plane to get home? Everyone else gets home okay. They can fuel up. They can hit their midpoint. They can go to Western Europe. They can sit there and fuel up in the EU. They go to Heathrow. They go to, Munich or Frankfurt or wherever and hang out at the hotel that Byrne was talking about at the airport. They can fuel up. They can do their thing. Maybe they get an AWAC from Rhine-Main to come and help them out and fuel up the plane so they don't have to land. That would be the other element in all of this. You get a plane to help them out and refuel midair. So
drop him out of the airplane like he's DB Cooper.
Right. Yeah. So can we parachute him out of the plane? That I think, Coco, if Coco, you have a situation where you get the assistance from the U.S. Armed Forces and can refuel the plane in midair, then you can parachute an individual out of a plane. And thankfully you said parachute and not just drop.
You know what? Actually, I got it. Drop him in the U.S., but drop him on the exact opposite end of where he wants to be. But he can only get home with Spirit Airlines. There you go. It'd be just as long and just as inconvenient if you dropped him in the Far East.
True. So if you toss somebody out of a plane like DB Cooper, I don't think it's an act of war. I think it's plausible deniability. So Coco is saying drop him in Alaska and have him fly out on Spirit.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that has all the potential to end up in like a Survivor novel.
All right. So if I could spell.
There was a story, there was a book I read as a kid called Hatchet about a kid who's on an airplane over the wilderness, and the plane crashes because the pilot has a heart attack, and the kid has to survive in the wilderness till he's found, and all he has is a hatchet. That with Gregg Berhalter would be a fascinating adventure to see how Gregg Berhalter deals with that, because they would find him, and all we would know is he's found out how to convince squirrels to play a 4-man backline.
There you go. Let's see. All airports. I'm looking for Alaska. Oh, they might not have an Alaskan airport, which would be even better.
And to Michael's point, like, Gregg might be a super nice guy. I don't know, man. But yeah, like, if this thing comes down to like, hey, you got knocked out because Gregg was stubborn and made decisions, either in the buildup or in the moment with his choice goalkeeper, or not bringing in form strikers, or the way he set the team up. Yeah, people are going to have a lot of animosity, and It's not going to be pretty, because you're going to get a lot of push from people to say, you cannot have this man running this team when the World Cup is here in 2026, if that's how he does it. And I'm okay with that anyway, just because I'm personally a fan of the philosophy of, once you have a World Cup cycle, you change it up.
Yeah.
You don't want to overstay your welcome. Germany went through that with a great coach and a great team. I wonder if this is the last run in England with their current setup before they make a change. Like, I don't think you want to go full Patriots with this. You want to pull the plug too early rather than too late.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so our proposed theory about having Gregg dropped in Alaska and having to fly home on Spirit, he would have to find a way to get from Anchorage to SeaTac. That's the closest that Spirit does anything. So it might have to be Alaska Airlines.
SeaTac is a nice airport, though. I like SeaTac.
Oh, that's the thing. It's like you'd have to find a way for him to get out of Alaska, which means Alaska Airlines. But because of Alaska Airlines sponsorships of soccer in the Western United States, will they even allow him on a plane? And so he's got to find a way to get out of Alaska, make it to SeaTac, and then however he goes from SeaTac home, it would be on Spirit. So he would have to be getting that done. Let's see. Coco, I have no positive feelings about 3G. He could win the damn World Cup, and I'd still dislike him for all the crap he's done. The team will succeed in spite of him, not because of him. And England needs a full top-to-bottom rebuild. Yeah, I think that this is it for Gareth Southgate, regardless of where they finish. Burned says that 3G could meet up with Tata in Europe, who's probably getting canned as well. And Tata can spring for a jet. With all the money he's earned this cycle from the Mexican Federation, they can talk tactics all flight. And Coco says, we drop him with the Alaskan Bush people family, make him find his way out. By the way, speaking of Tata Martino.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, let's talk about it.
Yeah, well,
because it's not substantiated from what I can tell.
Right.
I need to do more research. Check your sources, kids. This is just a rumor. This is just a rumor as of right now. It does not mean it's happening. Does not mean it's not going to happen. But right now, it's just a rumor, so please keep that in mind as we discuss this, John. Go ahead.
Yes. Check your sources, underline, exclamate, italicize.
This also isn't a shot at the people who put it out there. I don't know.
No.
But just everybody's going to go ham if it happens. So
Dynamo Insider and Dynamo Insider, 1,500 followers on Twitter, but they are followed by the striker in Texas.
Jason, it's not necessarily breaking news. It came out yesterday, but go for it.
Yeah. Followed by the striker and Glenn Davis and a couple of others. So Dynamo Insider, once again, take this for what it's worth. They are lining up that Tata Martino is a candidate for the Houston coaching vacancy. And if he was the final decision, it's after the World Cup. So, frankly, Jarrett, you and I could be candidates for the Houston coaching vacancy just as much.
Bring back Wade Barrett.
Yes. So
bring back like 2015 Wade Barrett. Why not?
So that's what you're looking at. So, like I said, 1,500 followers, but
yeah, might be. Honestly, I haven't done a lot of research on them. They might be very reputable and know exactly know this. This isn't to discount them. I just don't know about them. I don't know much about them. So I want to make that part clear. Like, I don't want to poo-poo anything they're saying on principle, because I just don't know much about them or, what they have. So it's absolutely worth considering and then worth researching more.
Yeah, right. And Coco, you're square on MLS.com hive mind wouldn't go on everything anti. Yeah, they would. But so that was put out there a couple days ago. But like I said, Jarrett and I are also candidates for the Houston Dynamo coaching vacancy. So they're saying that Tata is one of many in Houston that is for the Houston head coaching vacancy. And obviously, since he's got work to do, he's still got a job right now. If anything like that happens, it happens after the World Cup. So, but once again, in situations like this, when you hear a name attached to a job, does not matter who it is, where it is, or where it's attached, you see something like this, do your research, check your sources, continue to monitor it from that point. This is not cut in stone or anything like that. It's just been put out there by Dynamo Insider. So we'll keep an eye on that going forward. So Byrne makes sense for Tata's agent, i.e. his daughter, to leak that they've been contacted by Houston, drives up the interest level in him. Absolutely true.
I'm also going to drive this point home. I talked about this on the Discord yesterday. Hey, y'all pull up Tata CV. Find me a place he stayed at for more than 3 years.
True.
I mean, Mexico's about it right now with the national team, and that's because you're locked into that gig for a cycle.
Yep.
Tata's not unlike Bielsa in the sense that he don't stay any place long. He is a wandering soul in the truest sense of the word. Like, Bielsa staying at Leeds as long as he did was a bit of an enigma.
Yes, it was. Absolutely.
So let's pull this up. Tata Martino. God, we should have had college football writers covering him. Cecil Hurt covering Tata would have been a life-changing expectation for me.
Fantastic.
God, R.I.P. Cecil. R.I.P. buddy. Teams managed. Let's see. 1 year. 2 years at Libertad. 2 years at Cerro Porteño. 1 year at Colón. 2 years at Libertad. 4 years at Paraguay. It's a national team job. 2 years at Newell's. 2 years at Barca. Actually, he was only at Barca for 1 year. Argentina, 2014 to 16. Atlanta United, 16 to 18. He doesn't stay for very long. The man does not stay still. He is basically a molecule in motion at all given moments.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be very interested if he does Mexico though, or if he did Houston. I kind of get the vibe from Tata sometimes that he's about done. Like he's 59 now. There's times I wonder if he's going to be about done if he doesn't go back home and just chill out, maybe coach back home.
Yeah.
But I thought Mexico might be his last big gig.
I thought so too.
Houston I wouldn't hate it for it though. And I wouldn't hate it for Houston. I think it would be awesome. If he did that, I think it would be awesome for Houston.
Mm-hmm. But
it'd be a good coach to put in place, and he could try and put something in place and try and leave something that can stand.
But we saw the level of patience with the new ownership group with Paulo Nagamura. And yes, I know that Paulo Nagamura and Tata Martino are two entirely different individuals. Mm-hmm. And as a new owner with a new front office, you want to make that kind of a splash. I anticipate it's going to be a big name in quotation marks, whatever you want to classify that as being. And so leaning in that direction for a big splashy hire makes sense. But after having done what Tata has done in a league and in a team sense, going to a national team, do you want the headaches of going back to doing the daily grind and managing a club? If you could do it in a CEO kind of a way, where you had everyone around you taking care of everything and you just were the CEO of that whole idea, I could see it. But I could also see the idea it's like, no, I'm going to go home and, maybe coach a small club or something like that, or be an advisor, because of just all of the daily grind that's attached to it. And especially you would want to take some time off after what you've been going through with El Tri. I would think that you wouldn't take anything immediately. I would think you'd want to take
anything would be a vacation after coaching El Tri. I feel like literally anything would be a vacation. Going back and coaching the Argentine national team might be the only thing that's not a vacation after coaching the Mexican national team, because every journalist and every coach is actively attempting to cut your Achilles tendons off.
Yeah, and so. Houston needs a new GM more than a new coach, but then again, Tata has a great eye for talent, as we know.
Yes, but it will, but he's right. It would take an entire front. It would take more than just Tata Martino.
Yes, literally,
you have to have and Houston has started to show that they're willing to spend money. They spent money this summer. It didn't pan out for them, but they spent the money.
Yeah.
If they're willing to spend money, hell yeah. Get him down there. Open up the pocketbooks and get him down there and see if Houston can revitalize what should be a hotbed. When we talk about Atlanta should have for a long time been a hotbed for the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
Shouldn't Houston be that?
Well, and so Coco has started Black Helicopters down here for your final 5 minutes, and this was a fantastic way to do it. You want Black Helicopters down here? Coco is saying Gallardo's so Tata goes from El Tri and goes to River.
Hey, Coco, did you see who the tabloids had linked to River at one point last week?
Yeah. Gabriel Heinze. Gabriel Heinze.
Heinze and River.
Teise on their number one show had the 5 dudes in their suits or warm-ups or whatever. And on the left-hand side of the screen of their full screen, Teise had Gabriel Heinze as one of their top 5 dudes of going to River.
You want me to create the ultimate hilarity? Give the job to Heinze and go win the Libertadores with Ezequiel Barco still at River on loan.
You want hashtag irony? You want irony alert with black helicopters? You bring in Heinze and you've got Ezequiel Barco and you win everything. How about that? You like apples? How you like them apples?
That would be just my favorite scenario to happen. Because Gabriel Heinze might also knife someone in a post game after winning Libertadores.
True, yeah.
Because it's Argentina.
Yes, or throw a chair. But Burned with a legitimate point here in Black Helicopters down here. Is Tata going to coach against Newell?
He probably would just say he was sick.
Yeah. David.
And that's what I wonder if he would go back and be involved in Newell's in some way or just kind of chill out. I would imagine that Tata Martino has made plenty of money in his career.
Yeah.
And would be able to just take a break if he wanted to and relax and do the thing that we do. We see this in coaching circles all the time. We saw that, John, we saw this last week when Ed Orgeron showed up at Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. When coaches aren't coaching, they like to go around and see buddies of theirs who are coaching. Yeah. So maybe Tata just takes the tour and takes a weekend to go see a friend of his who's coaching somewhere, or a former mentee of his maybe who's coaching somewhere, or he goes and talks to Bielsa.
Yeah. Or when
Pochettino
takes over at Villa, he just goes to Aston Villa to hang out with Pochettino.
Yeah, he just goes and hangs out, just like watches a couple training sessions and then goes sit in the box during the game and talk to him after the game, that kind of thing.
Tata Martino and the hand waving tour and the handshaking tour and standing on the touchline pre-match. I think that's the next step legitimately.
So David brings this up. I don't watch every Mexican national team game, but every one I have watched, their striker play was god-awful. Worse than Luis Araujo. And I think these are top choice strikers. I think his team has let him down.
I agree. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that could very well be a thing, man, that you can get guys in position, but they have to finish in front of the net. We watched Atlanta create plenty of opportunities this year, and I think they led the league in chances created, or key passes, whatever one of those. I think Atlanta either led or near the top of the league in one of those stats.
Yeah,
but couldn't hit a ball in the ass with a base fiddle in front of net.
Yeah.
So if you can't put the ball in the back of the net, all of that means precisely dick.
Exactly. And just ask him.
Yeah, just go ask. Convince Chicharito to come back to Mexico's national team.
Yeah, well,
if Tata can get them past the fabled 6th game, or to the fabled 6th game, then they might build a statue for him. If he doesn't, he'll be out. And yeah, man, those rumors will probably pick up. And I wouldn't doubt that, to Burns' point from earlier, I'm sure they probably have Houston probably has contacted him, because if he's going to be a free agent after this World Cup, and you saw what he did with an expansion side in Atlanta in terms of, trying to instill the playing style.
Yep.
Then, yeah, and the places he goes, he makes it work traditionally.
Yep.
I would not be shocked if he gets a call from them or call from other clubs looking.
And you mentioned other clubs. Coco just goes ahead and goes full Black Helicopters. How long till Tata and Bielsa partnered up at Newell's? Run it together.
Ooh. I mean,
I'm for it.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Give me all the chaos. Hey, man, I've got
here's the thing.
Yeah.
You want me to build upon that?
Mm-hmm. Go for it.
They run it back, and the technical director is one Lionel Messi, who comes home when he's done playing, and I think he's mentioned before he wants to be more behind the scenes than head coach.
Yeah.
Let Messi get involved in the front office at Newell's.
Mm-hmm.
and then put one of them in charge of the coaching staff and just make this Voltron of Argentine legend.
See, that's what Wall Pass Wednesday is all about, frankly. That's what, when we do stuff like this, that is the vision of Wall Pass Wednesday.
Wall Pass Wednesday is about discussing Tata Martino rumors and where you would like to leave Gregg Berhalter if he crashes out of the World Cup, so that he is both safe and inconvenienced.
Exactly. And that's
although I don't know, man, Alaska might not be safe because I mean I've been seeing stuff about like about like grizzly bears crossbreeding with polar bears, and
whoa!
I mean that's a terrifying hybrid.
Whoa! I did not know about this.
Yeah. What was it? Yeah, I forget what they call it.
Yeah,
it's not like
full blown winter. It's not safe.
It's a rare hybrid. But it's like it's not like happening tons, but like, yeah, you can get situations where like you'll crossbreed a polar bear and a grizzly bear.
So, well, you know, when you're in the forest and you're
which is a very aggressive animal, because remember, if it's black fight back, if it's brown lie down, you know, that whole thing. But like, they're like, yeah, carry bear mace with you. That's great if it's a black bear. It's a grizzly bear. That's you've basically brought Tony Satcheries for the bear.
Yes.
You're just seasoning yourself, which is a very polite thing to do, but you are seasoning yourself for the bear.
Correct. Burn. Mexico seems to be pretty well set up by Tata. They just don't have the horses. Absolutely true. The Jimenez injury killed him, and that midfield is too old. Yeah, David, no doubt about it. Yeah, angry white nationalist bear. Yeah,
man, Trumpy Bear was a thing too. Go look it up on YouTube. It's
exactly.
It was like the weirdest fever dream you've ever had.
Oh man.
Mexico's in a weird spot though. To Burn's point, this will be my last thing before I jump out the
you jump
the
out
side door.
There you go.
I'm DB Coopering out of this in a second. Mexico's in a weird spot, and it's going to be tough for, I think, anyone who has to manage that team going forward.
Yeah.
That's going to be tricky.
No doubt. And on that note, let's see. So that means we don't see you till Friday, right?
Yep.
All right. Well, then that's he leaves us on Wall Pass Wednesday, and he leaves us with this stuff. So we'll see you on Friday, my friend.
Sounds good.
All right, Jarrett Smith, everybody, on a Wall Pass Wednesday. But yes, this morning, this first hour of Wall Pass Wednesday, that's what Wall Pass Wednesday is all about. We sit there and we go down one lane of traffic, and then all of a sudden sit there and go, ooh, squirrel. And then we go in someplace else, and then it's like, oh, and we'll go here. And then like, oh, we'll go here. But no. And thanks to all of y'all for putting up with all of the randomness of Wall Pass Wednesdays. But that's, like I said, that's what Wall Pass Wednesday is all about. So before Dylan Butler joins, let's go ahead and cut the promo. Let me see if I can find my music levels, which once again are at 50%, which they don't need to be. They need to be at 15 and not on loop. So we'll get rid of that. So it's time to read the promo. For odor-free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go. It's a Lemonize service. QR code over my shoulder for those of you watching on Twitch. Deodorizing in closed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos, Lemonize has created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pet cigarettes and food. Realtors and property managers use the Lemonize service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. The turnkey process makes it easy to work with said realtors and property managers, kind to the environment, offering a green way to go about getting rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever. Different than Febreze or our favorite masking agents that we have either under the sink or above us in the cupboard, because when we reach under the sink or above us in the cupboard, pull out that particular bottle and spray it into the air, it's a masking agent for a reason. It masks the odor. It doesn't attack the problem all the way down to the molecule like our friends do at a Lemonize service. Pricing very, very easy, one of two ways, either by cubic feet or parts per million, to come up on cubic feet or parts per million, come up with a price that's affordable for you. Offering results in 24 hours or less. For more info about a Lemonize service, including anything on your mind, frequently asked or otherwise, go to the website, lemonize.com. But do us a favor, and this is where I pick up my pen, and that's another question of the day that I have coming up in just a sec as we continue to work everything for Dylan Butler. I have my pen. Here's your homework assignment. ELIMINIZE.com. But go /Atlanta after that. Lemonize.com /Atlanta. For odor-free, clean, fresh air, proud sponsors of everything SDH. And so we've made it through the promo. Let me give you my QOD here as I fade things out. And so, all right. So paused there. That's done for tomorrow. So Coco with audio mixing down here on recordings. Music can almost not be heard. So I'll try 20 or 25. Okay. So I'll cut it down to half. Yes, Coco, we talk about Kiffining a national team coach and bring up an Infinity Stone gauntlet of legends in Argentina. Yes, that is what Wall Pass Wednesday is all about, people. That is what Wall Pass Wednesday is all about, going completely and totally off the rails. And speaking about going completely and totally off the rails, it's time to bring in this guy. Dylan Butler joins us. And Dylan, it has been one of those Wall Pass Wednesdays where the first hour of the show was completely and totally off the rails, and I mean it in a good way. Because we started talking about topics, and then because of how things are on Wednesdays, and you know how this goes. Wall Pass Wednesday, we bring ideas. Everybody brings ideas to the table. I have my question of the day, those kinds of things, and it evolved into a discussion about where Gregg Berhalter could be kiffined on the way home if the U.S. has a disastrous group stage. Where could he be fired? What tarmac could be an inconvenience for him, but not an inconvenience for the rest of the national team so they could make their way home? And then trying to figure out who could be the new head coach at River Plate. And if you combined the resources of Messi, Bielsa, and Tata Martino, and maybe Mauricio Pochettino, and mentioning that Gabriel Heinze was a top 5 candidate from our friends at TAEC, that's where we were this morning, Dylan. We were
no mention of Caleb Porter in any of that.
No. There was no mention of Caleb Porter. He has already been kiffined. So he was right there in Columbus. He's been kiffined already. That's where we were. And we even have a QOD for you. But first, before we get into the QODs and everything with Dylan Butler, how were your games this weekend?
How were my games this weekend? Yeah, I mean, I think I only had a game Friday. This week was just a Friday night game. Okay. It was as expected. I think it was a lopsided game, but it moved. It wasn't like 64-0. So it allowed you enough time to put out points for both teams. And when the losing coach, texts you later that night, like, watch the broadcast, it was so great. Thanks for mentioning all our guys and our program. That makes you feel good too. So
yes. So when you have one of those games that's not a running clock, and you're trying to sit there and come up with fun facts the whole time and make sure that everyone's represented, and because that's key when you're doing a high school broadcast, is you make sure that you're being equitable and you're saying nice things about both sides, even if the game turns into a bit of a runaway. So no,
the funny thing, John, going forward, and you could appreciate this, is like in my brain, I'm trying to project sort of how this league will wind up, and like the playoff matchups that best suit me. Like,
yes.
Like, I want to have like these two teams, are like Chaminade and Kellenberg are like sister or brethren schools, but they're rivals. It would be a great Long Island game. Like, I want those teams to play and us do that game. And then the winner of that plays St. Anthony's, another rivalry game. And then the winner of that, like, I'm trying to somehow try to push this narrative.
As you should. Absolutely. That is absolutely
how it happens. Like, that's the harder part.
Yes. It has to be mandated. Since Dylan said it, it has to be so. Let's see. So since you are, since you're sporting your Yankees gear again, Yankees gear. See, there it is. Yankees baseball.
As well as.
And where's the mug? There you go. See, he's all Yankeed up this morning, and we talk about budgets and spending because we know that only a certain number of clubs can chase after Aaron Judge. Question from Coco on the Twitch pitch: if Dylan had to build a club legends front office for an MLS club, which club would it be, and who is in it?
Wait, so A club
legends front office. So I'm like if you were doing San Jose, would it be Winalda and Wando going clash and
all right.
kind of a thing? So if you had to build a club legends front office for an MLS club, president, technical director, coach, who would it be? Which club would it be, and who's in it?
Coco brings it every Wednesday. That's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I feel like you don't want to just throw names there, right? Like they should have some ability, right? So,
and any club you name, you probably could have Alan Gordon as a part of the discussion, but that's just me.
I was literally about to go Galaxy and bring Landon Donovan into the fold, right? Like you've already got Greg Vanney. I don't know if you consider him a legend. Like he doesn't have his Landon Donovan like trophy or not trophy. What do they build for him?
Well, they built statues?
A statue, yeah. They don't have a Greg Vanney statue, right? But he's a Galaxy original, so he's already in the coaching spot. Maybe you put Landon as like that technical director, or sporting director, whatever, like your GM.
What about David Beckham?
And you he's already got a job. How about Keno? Bring Keno back.
Okay. All right. So president, TD, and coach.
Yeah, I mean, I like, again, you've got Vanney as coach.
Okay.
So maybe I'm cheating there a little bit. TD. Donovan.
Donovan is your TD.
Who is their goalkeeping coach? Because if it's not, it should be Kevin Hartman.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, like so he could be your goalkeeping coach.
So then, who's your club president if you're LAG?
Yeah, who would be the president? I don't even like. Would Robbie Keane even want that kind of a job?
Hey, well, but I think that's irrelevant to the conversation.
Okay.
Right? If you are picking three individuals, and basically you have a checkbook, you walk over to Robbie Keane and go, "Yo, Robbie, I need you to be team president of LAG, and Donovan is your TD and Vanney's your coach. Here's your blank check, Robbie Keane."
Yeah, let's do that.
I think that's acceptable. So there you go. So Coco's asking, where would Wando fit in San Jose?
I think he would.
Wouldn't he be your team president because he's already showing stuff with the fans? He's already going shirtless in the crowd, that kind of a thing.
Yeah, I don't think he has I think he'd be sent off way too many times from the touchline with like, I could totally see like a Wando outburst and like Ismail Elfat being like, just get out of here, just go, get off the touchline.
Elfat looks at him and goes, hand up.
Yeah.
And he cocks his head. He waves.
So
his finger.
You could have Wando. Yeah, Wando could be like a team president. Who again? You could bring Gordon into this mix again, right?
Yeah.
San Jose. How about like Ronaldo? Right?
Yeah.
Like he's in that grouping, so he could be like a coach or a technical director of the Quakes.
Okay, so what about NYC? So that's the next. The Coco is lobbing shells this morning. It's like
he's directing the show apparently, or producing the show.
I'm all for it. Hey, it's a Wall Pass Wednesday, folks. Just bring stuff in. So we started going down this rabbit hole in hour number 1, and it's hour number 2. So NYC, where do you? Well, first off, NYC. Before we get the coach, the TD, and the president, where are they playing?
Queens.
There you go. All right.
Yeah, it's got to be Queens.
So now NYC, what's your NYC front office?
This is harder, I think, just because like you could just go, to the wall with this and have like Lampard, Pirlo, and Villa just like all in Lampard, I guess, coaching. Pirlo's got to be a president, right? Like he's got to be up there in the box with his vino.
Yeah.
And maybe David Villa as your.
Well, have you put the discussions about David Villa off the field aside?
Yeah. There's that as well, right? So,
Villa, Lampard. I mean, so Pirlo, Lampard, and So Lampard would be your coach. Pirlo would be your. So where's Pirlo?
He's the president.
Okay, so then who's your TD?
Good question. I'm trying to think of. Could it be a current player?
Sure.
Like I think like Sean Johnson could be like a good candidate for that.
There you go. I like that.
Like he might have broadcasting in his future. He's got the great voice.
Yeah.
But
it's evidenced by the commercial that was voiced by Derek Ray.
But yeah, no, I think that could work as well, right?
Yeah,
Sean Johnson.
Yeah, Coco is all in favor of your TD, Sean Johnson. So well done.
There we go.
All right, so since
but I mean, honestly, how cool would it be like to have Pirlo just as like as the president of the club? Like he's just like walking around, like
he's got his bottle red, and he's just kind of hanging out with his glass of red, and he's walking through Dylan Butler Stadium in Queens. It's just he's just kind of walking through, and he's got like a stylish Italian tailored suit, and he's got his glass of red wine, walking through the Dylan Butler suites at Dylan Butler Stadium, and he's just kind of poking his head in the door each and every time that Sweet A, how are you doing? Are you okay? Good to see you. Welcome to Dylan Butler Stadium. Thank you for coming. And he goes to the next one. How are you people? Good to see you. And he raises his red. Welcome to Dylan Butler Stadium. Good to see you.
Never smiling.
No, he's just
he's happy.
Yeah, it's just he's got his favorite red with him the whole time. He's just nursing it as he's walking through, and he's glad handing through all the suites and the press area and all that kind of stuff. And then he walks over to Mr. Butler. Good to see you. Thank you for being the name of the stadium and having all of that stuff. That's absolutely.
We got a Mr. out of that. It's pretty impressive by Pirlo.
Well, he knows power, and he knows power brokers.
I didn't get that when he was a player and I was covering him, but
yeah. So all right. So since we mentioned NYC, you got to see NYC. So did you get 5 days notice also about a venue change to Citi Field?
I will say I'm pretty well in tune to the interwebs. So I had an inkling. Like I saw this as soon as the Mets last pitch was thrown. Like I had a pretty good idea that this could happen.
As soon as the Mets officially sucked and the season was over, you kind of had that door open. But let me ask you this: Why make a venue change 5 days before an event? Yes, I know that the door opened and it's a place that's on the western side of the river and all these kinds of things, and it's not Red Bull, which is not your building, B, in New Jersey, C, an actual soccer stadium. Did I say that in my out loud voice? And you move 30 miles west with 5 days notice, with all of the inconveniences that are attached to everyone who works in Harrison, New Jersey. And I hope, and I made this point last week, that I hope that Red Bull Arena and everybody attached got paid, even the day workers that were supposed to have that date. And then all of a sudden, 5 days before, you get it wiped out from underneath you. All those machinations that were set in place. And then the league says, okay, it's cool. 5 days before an event, you can change it. I mean, it's just go with a venue and stick with it. Yes, I know that it's more convenient. It's more New York and all that kind of stuff. But 5 days before you change things?
Well, what I would say and I agree with that, obviously, but what I would say to that is maybe, it was announced, right? 5 days before. It was, I suspect, known before that. Now, why announce Red Bull Arena first, right?
Right.
What I would guess is you've especially in their situation, right? They're obviously in an extremely unique situation. Nobody else has to announce where their home game will be played in this league, in the playoffs at least. So my guess is that they were given some sort of a deadline. Like, we need to know 2 weeks before or 10 days, whatever the number is. And at that time, they didn't have Citi Field, right? I mean, how much worse would it have been from a PR standpoint for them if they say we're playing at Citi Field and then they say, oh, wait, sorry, the Mets are actually still playing there, or wait, how can you be playing there? The Mets are in game 2, so my guess is this was always that plan B. And they held on to Red Bull Arena as that security blanket, like, this is our last choice. But in case the Mets do win, we're going to go there. So.
Okay. Yeah, and so I mean, I would just prefer if you're going to, it gives the look. It's a bad look, and I think that if you're,
I think it's a bad look in the way that I brought it up, the way that there is no good look. That's just unfortunately the reality of it until Dylan Butler Stadium gets built. So
yeah, and so that's the biggest thing for me. It's like, yeah, I know. Just lay it all out for me. Tell me what's really going on instead of sitting there and having a bad look one way or the other. It's like, okay, we're still trying to work on our venue. You can probably guess where it's going to be, but a lot of it's going to depend on a certain baseball team. I mean, literally, that's all you've got to say to me. And then I'm like, okay, cool. I know where you're going here. And then that way, it at least it gives the notion that you're keeping options open. And yes, I did just use air quotes when it comes to this kind of a thing. It's like the situation, and you're not just dodging the idea. Basically, is what I'm looking at here. Producer Coco wants to know, says City didn't look good on TV. How was it live?
Yeah, I think the part, like the infield part, the lay down turf on the infield didn't look good, but
especially with the weather that came in.
Correct, right. So that's the other part of it, which it's not going to look like Rebel Arena would have looked, I think, but
True.
From an atmosphere perspective, and all of that, it was great. Like it was loud throughout. It wasn't just like the supporter section. Like they brought it, and then it reverberated through the stadium. I don't know I forgot to look what the number was for the attendance, but it was well attended for a rainy. What was it?
16, I think.
Yeah. So I mean, for a rainy Monday night, and again, as you mentioned, the game gets moved. I thought it was well attended, and it had a really good atmosphere for again, for a Monday night in the rain playoff match.
What else did you think about the other matches in round number 1 on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday? What else did you see?
Yeah, well, I mean, just staying on NYCFC for a moment, I thought, it's funny. I was there for their last playoff game at Citi Field, right? And that was against Toronto, a loss which ended up being Dome Torrent's last match.
Right.
And like they hadn't had like a history or any history at all of winning the playoffs, right? So that was a match where like they played well in the first half, they couldn't get the goals, and then they were punished for it like later on. In this match, it had a similar feel in that, like all your soccer nerd stuff, your XG stuff, everything was very heavily tilted in their direction, and they just weren't getting the goals, right? But you never felt, at least I didn't feel being there, like in the press box, like that there was a worry or a concern. Like, they had that sort of, championship swagger where you just had the belief that the goal was going to come, and once it did, the literal, the floodgates would open, and they obviously did late in that match. So I was impressed with. I think Cushing called it a masterclass of a win. I was impressed by that. Obviously, the other side of it is, Miami, and I think I said it last week here as well. I didn't have any expectations of them winning this match, but the fact that they just made the playoffs, I think, is a huge. Like, this was absolutely a positive, a winning season for Miami when you consider 12 months ago where they were, right?
Mm-hmm. No doubt.
Like, Chris Henderson should absolutely be the executive of the year because of the way, not only does he completely turn around that roster, he gets Pozuelo for a steal from Toronto. Then that partners well with Higuain. You get the buy-in from Higuain as well. So credit to Phil Neville for that. And then they just make the playoffs, having turned around the roster, which again, with all the nuances and that MLS roster restrictions are, it's so hard to completely turn a team around and then get them to win. So I think those were positives for them. Now, obviously, looking forward, you don't have Higuain, which do you have Pozuelo, right? He's out of contract. I spoke with him after the match. He said he did what he came there to do, which was help them get into the playoffs. He was happy in Miami, but now he said it's time to go on holiday and have his people talk to their people and see what can be worked out. So I think that's one of the more interesting questions for Miami going forward. Obviously, filling the DP spot, there's been no shortage of rumors on who could be coming to Miami.
Yeah.
Hint being his name rhymes with Fessy.
Yes.
So, it's always exciting times in the transfer market for Miami, no doubt. But I think a positive for them. And then NYCFC again flexing their muscles. You go back to Saturday. I think I said it here, right? Like I thought Cincinnati was going to win that game. Like that was one that I wasn't. The road team wasn't to me the underdog, even though the seeding said it, right? So that pretty much played out. Once Lewis Morgan and it's one of those That's So Metro moments, right, where he scores a golazo and then gets injured, and then he has to leave, and now you've literally got nobody who scores a goal.
Yep.
Right, that's a problem for them. The salaries come out; they're dead last in salary. The Red Bulls, nobody showed up on a beautiful Saturday afternoon. Just a whole lot of bad looks from Red Bull. And Cincinnati, again, after Wooden Spoon for 3 years, a big confidence booster. Now, obviously, they go against, it's the mentor against the pupil, I guess, if you want to call it that a little bit, with Noonan and Curtin. Obviously, all the pressure is going to be on Philly. So that was the first game Saturday. The second game Saturday was awesome. I loved it. LA. Nashville, there was the game I thought I'd said as well that I was most looking forward to. And I think again, LA, once they made the move for Puig and then Brugman, really solidifying their midfield. Super dangerous team now, right? And obviously it sets up Trafico. Sorry, Jason. Which everybody, I think, outside of Nashville wanted to see.
Mm-hmm.
Sunday was Montreal, right? Was a later match, right?
Yeah, and you had Austin and RSL as your early one.
Yeah. Whoa. So I have a beef with Austin.
Okay.
Austin were the second best team in the West, pushing for a good chunk of the season for the top spot in the West, right?
Check.
They have a player in Druisi who will probably be the runner-up for MVP.
Okay.
They have a coach in Josh Wolf who he will not win it. I think Nancy wins Coach of the Year.
Yes.
But I suspect he'll get a few votes, deservingly so, right? They've got a solid goalkeeper in Brad Stuver, who I don't think wins goalkeeper of the year, but he'll get votes.
Yes. What
is this? Everybody's against no one believes in us. What is this narrative about? I don't get it. You see guys, and then here. So and I love Felipe. He was awesome. When he played Red Bulls, he was great to cover. And what I don't get is why flex after the match about, essentially, we're keeping receipts kind of a deal when you were down 2-0 in the first half, to Salt Lake. If you won 4-0, go ahead, flex on Twitter, right? But I just don't get it. I get it from the sense of that's a cool narrative to have in your locker room and a good rallying cry for your whole team, but it's not based in reality, right? Is anyone saying that they're paper champions or they're not real. Like, I don't.
You're the new guy. You don't deserve to be. I'm guessing. I don't know. To me, I have no basis in fact in any of this. I was trying to psychoanalyze why possibly Austin would sit there and it's like, we're the new guy. Everybody else is an established franchise. We're the new guy here. You wouldn't expect us to be this good this quickly. All those kinds of things. That's the
like
only
don't go down that Adrian Heath rabbit hole. Like it's not a good look.
Come on, Dylan. It's a great look.
And then he turned Scottish suddenly.
I guess I was trying to think of something.
But yeah, I mean, incredible drama in that one. Obviously the red card turned that match, and then Stuver was brilliant in the PKs.
Bean, what are you doing?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then Montreal, right? Like just cool. Like again, similar, I think, to NYCFC, where you just felt that goal was going to come, right? Like the breakthrough was going to come, and it did. Mm-hmm. A deserved win there as well. Also sets up an incredible next round match with NYCFC. That should be a great tactical battle. And then you know, I obviously didn't get a chance to see a lot of it because I was filing a story from Citi Field. But first, the giant taco. Like, how cool is that?
Oh my God. That was one of our questions earlier in the week is, would you eat it? Would you order the giant taco for the $16 and would you partake in said item on the menu? And I said, yeah, but I'd probably have to not eat for like 2 days leading into it. So,
and it's hard too with it's a taco. So like, you can't really, it's not like, you don't, it's not nachos. You don't share that.
No, that's, and if they did it in a soft corn tortilla, I'd be all over it. I mean, just a soft shell, but the hard shell for me justifies the pizza box. Because,
but do you think that dude, like, he had no idea, right? Like that, again, that's like, I'm a big Seinfeld fan. That's like the old school, you know, ice cream on Costanza's face, right? Like with the great seats for the Orioles Yankees game, you know, like, and the announcer like, oh, that guy's having fun today, and he has all the syrup all over his face and the chocolate ice cream over his face. Like that dude, when he went to the concession stand and it said, I would like a giant taco, please. Mm-hmm. He had no idea that he would be an internet sensation.
No, he did not. I mean, you wonder if he knew that he was getting a briefcase, if he knew that taco was brought to us by our friends at American Tourister. But I mean, legitimately, you need a pizza box, because if that is a hard shell taco, you're going to have more things fall than you probably will end up partaking, and you're going to.
And you saw that in his bite too. Like you saw like a bunch.
Yeah, that's like Devontae Adams with the Taco Bell in his house. You know, it's like, you know that things are going to go south after you take that first bite. That's why I want the soft tortilla. That's why I want the soft shell as a part of this whole thing. I mean,
how about if you combine? Like, can you do the Taco Bell does that, right? Like they do the soft and hard shell.
Yeah, they do.
Together.
Yeah.
So I do like the crunch of the hard shell, but you're right. Like it breaks apart too easily. Have it inside the soft shell.
Yeah. See, something that large with the fallout, and I mean that both figuratively and literally, of having that taco that size, I think that it legitimately creates issues. And so that's why I want something. You either are, and to Coco's point, Coco is sharing the taco with the boss in that instance. And if you're going to share it, it's really got to be someone that you're really close with. So you're not going to have kind of, you know, any kind of fallout after that.
Did they ever revisit the guy? Like I saw, I was made aware of it pretty much immediately.
Yeah.
But again, I didn't watch a lot of the match because of my responsibility. So did they ever go back? Like, did he finish it? Did he, like, what's the story there?
Don't know. I don't know if Big FOX actually went back, and we got to follow up on the progress of said taco. But I think the pizza box for a hard shell, I think the pizza box is definitely worthy of making sure that you eat as much of that taco as possible. All right. So
the two takes, sorry, John, the two takes from that is the giant taco being one.
Yes.
And the Panenka PK, which there is no middle ground, right? With the Panenka, is there? Like, either you are the GOAT, as the kids say today, or the GOAT that we say, being, the guy who lost you the match, aka Chicharito. So I'm obviously based in New York. I'm not in LA, but I would, I would love to have like a reporter that just sort of go to. Did you watch that, PK?
Yeah.
Chicharito, like, what'd you think of that? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like he's so outgoing. Like he probably would have a pretty funny response about that.
All right. So who's winning the matches this weekend for you?
Oof. So El Trafico. I don't know, man. Like that's that to me is. Here's what I will say about this.
Okay.
It's a toss-up to me, but I think the Galaxy need to score the first goal to be able to win the game.
Agreed.
I think if they fall behind in this one, it's going to be really tough to come back against LAFC because they're such a good counterattacking team, right? Like you've got to open yourself up and go for it, and then they could hit you again. So I think Galaxy need to score first to have a chance to win that one.
What about Spider-Man pointing to each other?
Yeah.
Really insensitive.
I'm going to go. Sorry, the world's biggest underdogs. I'm going to go Austin against Dallas because I think again it comes down to a couple things in the playoffs: goalkeeping and a guy who could find ways to be a difference maker, and that's what Druisi is.
Yep.
And I don't think Dallas has that really. Like they've got solid pieces, but they don't have that guy. In the East, I think Philly wins. I love everything about the narrative of Cincinnati and their comeback and how big of a win this season was. But I think, that journey ends here. And then NYCFC Montreal.
In Stade Saputo, we still don't have an update on Tavon Gray or Talis Magno. And I think just being on the road where you're not in that bandbox, I think that either bandbox, either at City or at Yankee or at RBA where it would be normal. But I've got to go with Montreal at Stade Saputo. I really do.
Well, I'll go the other way then.
Okay.
I'll go NYC again based on playoff experience and having that swagger and. Granted, it's a different team. It's a much different team that they played in Miami than they will in Montreal. But they didn't have Talis Magna. They didn't have Tavon Gray. And they looked really, really good, right? So, but I think I think that's one of, like, if you were to power rank the games for me, I think it's Trafico 1. I think this game actually 2 ahead of Austin Dallas. I think just because it'll be such a good technical match, like it won't be that rock fight, right? I think Austin 3 and then Philly 4 in the games that I'm looking forward to seeing.
Okay. What is going on with you and MLSsoccer.com and OSDB? What's the latest?
Good question. So obviously, playoffs happening MLS. I'll probably do like an early conference final preview, I guess, for OSDB. I haven't thought about that yet. Got 2 high school games as well coming up this weekend. I've got a Friday night game in Sayville, which, if you know my neck of the woods, is a local ride, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
So like 5 minutes down like Main Street. And then Saturday night I have a game as well. I don't anticipate either of these games being close either, unfortunately.
Okay. So maybe a running clock gets you out early and we'll rock and roll from there. But
yeah.
Dylan, as always, great to have you here on Wednesdays where the show goes off the rails, and I'm just hanging on for dear life for a full 2 hours. But thanks a lot.
Coco will work. We'll take you through it. Don't worry about it.
No doubt. Yeah, Coco and everybody's been great this morning about everything and all the ideas when it comes to questions of the day and all that kind of stuff here on the Wall Pass. We'll see you next week, my friend.
All right, buddy.
Dylan Butler from MLSsoccer.com, OSDB, and wearing his Yankees gear. So he was, he had both. He was that Yankees confident. He had both the sweatshirt and the mug this morning. He was dialing it up that way for us with Dylan and all of his stuff. So once again, thanks to Dylan, as he always comes out here on a weekly basis and puts up with my silliness. So all right, so let's get into news of the day and news of all the other stuff. Did you see? Off the top, it looks like Jurgen Klopp is going to sue as he denies claims of slurs against city owners. This is from our friends at The Telegraph and Chris Bascom. Taking legal action over media claims he inflamed tensions with alleged xenophobic remarks against Manchester City's owners ahead of their 1-0 win. Voiced concerns last Friday about City's spending power compared with rival clubs, said on Tuesday his remarks were, quote, misunderstood, end quote. And he got he got a red card on Sunday. He said he absolutely deserved it. Pep Guardiola claimed he had coins thrown at him by home fans. Merseyside police investigating claims the City team bus was later damaged. There's a big photo of one of the windows that had just a massive dent and crack in it from whatever was being thrown. Asked specifically about reports, once again, this is from The Telegraph, about reports alleging City sources had suggested his pre-match remarks amounted to xenophobia. And this is also, you can hear the sound on this on Prem and Proper here on the network. Klopp responded, I don't feel in this specific case. I don't feel it at all. I know myself, and you cannot hit with something which is miles away from my personality. If I was, I cannot remember the word. Wow, like this, I would hate it. I would hate it for myself being like this. I've said a lot of times things that were a little bit open for misunderstanding. I know that. It was not intentional. Just sometimes you say things and you think, oh my God, it can be interpreted like this. But this is not one of these moments, absolutely. Klopp irked City and Newcastle United by suggesting, along with PSG, that they're among three clubs who can do what they want financially. Tuesday morning, Newcastle manager Eddie Howe followed City by taking exception to Klopp's comments. Klopp stood by his remarks, suggesting he was making an observation about the three clubs' unlimited resources compared to their rivals, rather than criticizing the trio. In the same press conference last Friday, he described Pep Guardiola as the best manager in the world. City's the best team in the world. Erling Haaland is the best striker in the world. Klopp on Tuesday. Those comments didn't arrive, obviously. That's the life of people who speak in public. It's not the first time I'm misunderstood. I know what I thought when I said it. If someone misunderstands or wants to misunderstand, I cannot change that. I know I have to be careful, and I know I'm always not careful. And so we got into the whole thing about best friends. You can hear that audio also on Prem and Proper as well. They'll be without Diogo Jota, whose calf injuries ruled him out of the World Cup. So it's bad news on two fronts for Liverpool and for Diogo Jota. So Jurgen Klopp suing over claims of over his comments before the Man City match. So that was one of the big stories this morning. Eddie Howe basically said Klopp doesn't know what he's talking about. We've got matches today in the Premier League. We'll go over those here in just a second. We'll go over juice boxes and everything else that's going on. While we're there, we'll go ahead and talk Premier League since we're talking Premier League. You've got four matches at 2:30, one at 3:15. Bournemouth and Southampton, kind of within the margin of error on either side to win. Southampton's a road favorite slightly at a plus 170. Brentford and Chelsea. Chelsea's a big favorite, no surprise at the G-Tech. Liverpool, big favorite at home against West Ham at minus 227, no surprise. Newcastle at a minus 156, a favorite over Everton. Manchester United is your 315 hosting Spurs. Manchester United is a favorite at home at Old Trafford at a plus 141. Spurs is basically a plus 200. And your draws a plus 252. Two matches tomorrow, and we'll get into those a little bit more in detail. Fulham and Villa, Leicester, and Leeds. Also, this morning, when it comes to everything going on, and tomorrow, I think, is when we'll get into the latest in the NWSL with the Red Stars situation and Artem Whistler. We'll get into that tomorrow on the Power Hour. We will get into other stuff tomorrow as well. The comings and goings. Some teams have already started releasing in Major League Soccer who they're keeping and who they're not signing to contracts, and who is currently out of contract, but they still want to have discussions with, those kinds of things. We're starting to see that kind of stuff trickle through with Major League Soccer, so we'll keep an eye on that, and we'll talk about that tomorrow as well. Let's see. Looking at get into the news of the day. We'll get into the papers, and it looks like Speaking of openings, it looks like Michael Beal from QPR is probably going to resign his post at QPR to become the new head coach at Wolves. So we'll keep an eye on that. Daily Mirror, David De Gea's Manchester United future in doubt after Erik ten Hag said a decision had not been made on his contract situation. And this is kind of a bit of a crossover. Stan Kroenke's facing a £504 million payout, $570 million, with NFL owners expected to approve a resolution over the Rams' disputed relocation from St. Louis to L.A. So Stan Kroenke is going to pay about $570 million. So we'll see how that impacts spending across the board with the Rams and Arsenal and everything in the state of Colorado. Daily Telegraph, Gareth Southgate's going to keep a close eye on Joe Gomez, with the Liverpool defender desperate to make a late run into England's World Cup squad. Howard Webb will start an overhaul of Premier League refereeing in December when he takes over from Mike Riley as chief refereeing officer. This is me holding my breath. Villa making an ambitious attempt to convince Mauricio Pochettino to step back into management if Steven Gerrard is going to be let go. Football fans are facing the prospect of a World Cup beer shortage. That's what I said. World Cup beer shortage. After workers at a firm that makes 40% of deliveries announced 5 days of strike action. Daily Express, former Villa striker Dion Dublin has backed Rafa Benitez as a possible option to replace Steven Gerrard as manager. Agent of Napoli forward Victor Osimhen has suggested the 23-year-old will not be joining Manchester United or Arsenal in the window. Skipping the 3 and the 4-letter paper to the Times. N'Golo Kante, we've talked about him all week. He's been ruled out of the World Cup after a hamstring operation. Sidelined the France and Chelsea midfielder for 4 months. Neymar claimed in court on Tuesday he had nothing to do with negotiating the Barca contract that is subject of a fraud and corruption case against him. Neil Lennon has been sacked by Omonia Nicosia less than a week after the Cypriots were denied a Europa League draw against Manchester United. Reports vary. Some say that Lennon has been sacked. Others say that Lennon jetted. And so Omonia Nicosia in Cyprus looking for a new manager. Frank Lampard has introduced a fine system at Everton, set up a leadership group as he looks to uphold the everyday standards he believes are critical to the club's progress. And Scottish papers, Celtic boss Ange Postecoglou insists transfer targets are already lined up ahead of the January window. John Flanagan, former Rangers defender, retiring at the age of 29. Rangers boss Gio Van Bronckhorst admits he'd like the situations over Ryan Kent and Alfredo Morelos' contracts to be resolved before the World Cup. So we'll keep an eye on that. Maybe we'll talk to Jarrett about that on Friday. So getting into the gossip of the day, Chelsea and Jorginho seeking a rise in salary to £150,000 a week before signing a new deal. That's from the Evening Standard. AC Milan pushing up to speed up negotiations with Rafael Leao. Inter Milan and Milan Skriniar and AC Milan's Leao could both sign new contracts with their clubs despite interest from Chelsea. That's from the Evening Standard. Chelsea interested in signing Lille Canadian striker Jonathan David in January. Keep an eye on that. That's from Junes Futeau via football.london. Besiktas dismissed a rumor circulating online they're being forced to play Dele Alli after he returned from a thigh injury. A small group of Barcelona fans have gone to court over the transfer of Lionel Messi to PSG in 2021. Lawyers appeared before a senior judge at the European Court of Justice to argue that the move broke European laws on state aid. All right. You got me on this one. So let's go to the Guardian. And the session in Luxembourg lasted 3 hours in front of Judge Mark Yeager, former president of the court. The hearing was, in effect, an appeal after an original claim against the European Commission was rejected. Verdict expected within 2 months. Messi left on a free, agreed to a contract reported £94 million over 3 years. UEFA found PSG to have been in breach of FFP during the time and demanded €65 million by way of a financial settlement. The Barca supporters case argues that French football authorities should never have allowed Messi's transfer to go through and that it distorted the competitive environment in continental football. But in calling for an investigation by the European Commission into the deal, they're also hoping to bring the world of football finance away from the game's governing bodies and into the scope of European lawmakers for the first time. According to notes provided by the court, the full claim by the fan group would lead to the original decision by the court being overturned, and the commission instructed to, quote, order the French Football Federation to immediately cease any distortion of competition and to bring itself into compliance with UEFA club licensing and FFP regulations, calls on the commission to instigate proceedings against the French government for illegal state aid to PSG and the French football clubs in national and European competitions, end quote. So there you go. PSG's insisting the signing of Messi did not breach FFP, and they said there's nothing to comment on. A source to The Guardian. The LFP, which runs the major leagues and operates under the French Football Federation, was approached for comment, and they have yet to give any. So that's your interesting. That's your laws down here for the day, and that was interesting with that one. Other stuff that is going through the papers. Manchester United failed Paul Pogba as much as the club's £89 million record signing failed the club before his free transfer to Juve, according to France midfielder's agent Rafaela Pimenta. Chelsea looking to cut short the loan deal of Dennis Zakaria in January. Ajax's Edson Alvarez, PSV's Ibrahim Sangare, Southampton's Romeo Lavia on their list of possible replacements. Former Arsenal defender William Gallas says current Gunners and Brazil forward Gabriel Martinelli is not yet good enough for a move to Real Madrid, says you. Gunners technical director Edu is wanted by 2 other European clubs, with the former Arsenal midfielder 100% focused on his role there at Arsenal. Juve interested in Atletico Madrid's 28-year-old Argentine midfielder Rodrigo de Paul. So that is your folks and transfers and news of involving actual players today. Matches to watch. We mentioned what was going on with the Premier League. You've got a lot of lower division stuff here in the morning. You've got Eastern Europe, North Africa, Middle East. You've got that going on right now. Noon, you have a DFB Pokal going on. Hannover and Dortmund, Paderborn, Werder Bremen, Freiburg, and St. Pauli. You've also got Coppa Italia at noon. You've got Champions League women. Juve a big favorite against Zurich. Bayern a massive favorite against Rosengard. No real surprises there. La Liga at 1 o'clock. Cadiz and Betis Valladolid and Celta de Vigo. You've got League Cup in Scotland. Copa del Rey at 1:30. Leading us into more Copa del Rey at 2. Real Sociedad Mallorca's at 2 in La Liga itself. Mentioned the juice boxes in the Premier League matches, more Copa del Rey, 5 matches in the Championship in England at 2:45. Coventry City is one of those teams hosting Sheffield United, and the folks at Coventry City, they're kind of keeping an eye on things because of the rugby side Wasps administration. Coventry City might be without a home next year, so we'll keep an eye on that and see how things are for them in the Championship. More DFB Pokal at 2:45. More Champions League Femenil at 3. Lyon, big favorite, hosting Arsenal. Barca, massive favorite against Benfica. More Coppa Italia, more lower divisions in Italy. And that carries us into late afternoon and evening into Central and South America. Copa Libertadores at 6:15. Corinthians, a big favorite. Deportivo Cali, a big favorite. Also looking at everything else, you got your Liga MX at 10:06. Toluca and Club America. And Club America in the semifinals, in the first leg of the semis, is a favorite at a -122. Toluca in the draw, basically in the neighborhood of 285 to 290. And Costa Rica after dark, Saprissa Herediano, both of our friends that we know from our time here with Atlanta United. Saprissa is a home favorite at a +104. So that sets up your matches for the day. And quickly checking to see if there's any other news on the board. Right, mentioned Matt Law talking about Villa targeting Mauricio Pochettino, and going over the standings really quickly in the Premier League after the matches yesterday. So we will lay things out here. Arsenal, once again, 4 points ahead of Manchester City. Spurs also at 23 points behind in goal difference by 11. Chelsea's at 19. Manchester United, 9 matches as well. They have 16 points. Newcastle's played 10. They're at 15, along with Brighton. Brighton is 5 goals behind in goal difference. That's your difference between 6 and 7. Liverpool is now 8th at 13 points. So let's look at what you can watch on TV before we go. And once again, thanks to everybody for hanging out on Wall Pass Wednesdays. It was fun today, and I'm glad that I'll go through all of your questions and thoughts that I might have missed. We'll scoop through that before we go. German Cup on ESPN2, Hanover, Borussia Dortmund. That's at noon. USA has Brentford and Chelsea. Everything else is on Peacock. Universo is simulcasting. La Liga, Cadiz and Betis at 12:50. Elche, Real Madrid, 2:50. ESPN Deportes. 2 has the semifinals of Toluca and America. Also, ESPN Plus, Sweden at 12:55. Belgium a doubleheader. Championship Millwall and Watford at 2:50. German Cup tripleheader at 11:50. Tripleheader at 2:55. La Liga doubleheader 12:50, 1:50, 2:50. Men's college soccer at 1 o'clock with Niagara and Iona going all the way through the nighttime. Women's soccer 2:30 and beyond, starting with Manhattan and Quinnipiac. They have action through 7 o'clock. Paramount Plus, Coppa Italia, 3 matches, 9, noon, and 3. Scottish League Cup, 1:15, 3:15. Argentina Primera, Gimnasia La Plata, Boca at 4. Talleres Cordoba, Union de Santa Fe at 8:30. Peacock, your other 4 matches at 2:30 and the one at 3:15 with Manchester United and Spurs. So remember, Manchester United Spurs, Peacock at 3:15. TUDN Univision VIX Plus has all of your Liga action. DAZN on YouTube has your Champions League action on the women's side. Doubleheader 12:45, doubleheader at 3. So let's go back and go through the early comments and go through stuff that I might have missed from the absolute beginning of the day. And once again, thanks for helping drive the. Forgot to ask about where we would inconveniently drop Gregg Berhalter to Dylan, but we'll ask him about that next time. Notes on Danny Cooksey. David, is this like hockey? And on the Thiago Almada discussion, is this like hockey and the anti-European media votes? Do they have something against South American players in this MLS media vote? Weird. I will leave that up to discussion and debate. Weeby admitted that he has an Atlanta United bias, and Jarrett talked about it too. But the fact that you would have a member of the MLS hive mind sit there and say that you have a bias toward Atlanta United as a member of the league hired media members, just keep that up your sleeve, keep that up your hip pocket. We got into our discussions with 3G and combined anti-Atlanta bias and a pro-American bias. All of our discussions this morning. Losing to England, just missing knockouts, finishing last in the group because I find missing knockouts is unacceptable. Agreed. Playing poorly where it becomes obvious that the system doesn't work with these players. That's from Byrne. You're not wrong. Let's see. Then we got into the discussions of where to drop 3GB off. Dropping with the Alaskan Bush people, make him find a way out. Have him fly Buffalo Air out of Alaska. Okay, Michael Head, I like that idea. I've never heard of Buffalo Air, but I'll take your word for it. Let's see. Candidate just means name on a list. Rich, you're absolutely correct. And by the way, your Sons of Ben scarf is over there in the office. I can't thank you enough for that. That's very, very cool. Let's see. Yes, a lot of folks keep moving companies in business, Coco. Nothing wrong with black helicopters down here. That's what Wednesday's all about. No, it's not safe in a full-blown winter. So what I'll do in the future, I'll take it to 20 or 25. And so for as my audio producer, you can keep an eye with what's going on there. All right. So then that we got into the discussion of and honestly, Sean Johnson, for me, it would be Turner and Johnson being in form, and Zach Steffen would be a part of the conversation. Yes. Ethan Horvath sadly would not. But for me, Turner, Johnson, Steffen, just because I know that Steffen, much like Christian Roldan, Gregg Berhalter has his guys, and that's just how it's always going to be. He's going to have his guys, and you're comfortable with those guys in these key situations. Coco, by the way, still voting for Alaska to drop off Gregg Berhalter. But once again, you've got to make sure that the team plane can drop Gregg Berhalter off. It's like, hey, Greg, go pick up the phone in the terminal, and then the plane goes and takes off without him. So we'll keep an eye on that. Getting into the discussions, how many minutes does Bale get? I'm guessing in a situation like this, since you had a week off, it wouldn't surprise me if you started both Bale and Vela to the detriment of what's going on. Bale, for me, Bale and Vela do not combine well. And you can see it. And I also want to know how physical the LA Galaxy are going to be against LAFC. I mean, are you going to knock them off their pins? Are you going to sit there and get them really frustrated and just, take your pound of flesh? That's what I would do. I would be as physical as humanly possible against LAFC. And then if LAG scores the first goal, just be physical, bang them around the building for the remainder of the time. That's all I would do. But it wouldn't surprise me if he started both Bale and Vela. And so that's where we are. We're officially caught up. But everybody, thanks again, once again, for hanging out with us on a Wall Pass Wednesday. We'll be back at it tomorrow. It's a power hour tomorrow. Reminder, 10 o'clock. We have some other programming that is going to be popping up. We are going to have Ian Cameron, a 1v1 with Ian Cameron. That's going to pop up in just a little bit as we get ready for the USL League One playoffs. We're going to be catching up with our friends from Chattanooga. We're going to do that tomorrow. So that'll be up later in the afternoon as well. Thursdays with Nico, that will be on at 5 o'clock. On Thursday, we're catching up with Mike Jeffries, the head coach of Charlotte Independence, at 3:30 tomorrow. So once again, all these interviews will be posted later in the afternoon on Thursday. So today, Ian Cameron, South Georgia Tormenta. Later tomorrow, Charlotte Independence. Thursdays with Nico, and we're still efforting our friends from Union Omaha to give you a full preview of what's going on in USL League One. And then 9:05 start on Friday. Greg Garza, it's his turn, and I think that they've got some stuff to talk about out in Rockdale County on the weekend. And then it looks like we're going to have Darren Van Tassel, the owner and co-owner and president of South Georgia Tormenta, joining us live at 10 o'clock on Friday morning. So very, very busy week for the remainder of our time. Once again, thanks for hanging out with us for another round of soccer down here. We'll be back at it tomorrow. Wall Pass Wednesdays. It's great to see them go off the rails, and it's great to see all you guys hanging on to the Comet's tail every single week like we always do. So for Jarrett, for Dylan, for all of you, thanks again. I'm just John. Play it safe, everybody. Mucha platial. And since it is the end of the show, that means I get to do this.